I'd like to welcome everybody to the Westfield City Council meeting, December 27th, 2023. Shall we all stand, face the flag, say the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marla, Ayler, could you give the invocation this evening, please?
Sure. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we seek you with all our hearts. You are our everything. Please let our actions match our words tonight. Each day, we hope that you can help us draw closer to you. Guide us through each decision and inspire us with new dreams and pursuits for this community. We want to honor you in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Marla.
Thanks, Marla.
Yeah, she's sick. Marla, can you please note the presence of a quorum?
Mike Johns,
Here.
Scott Fry,
Here.
Cindy Spoljaric, Scott Willis,
Here.
Victor McCarty,
Here.
Jake Gilbert,
Here.
Troy Patton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes for our December 11th, 2023 meeting. Councilors, do you have any questions regarding the minutes? Any additions, deletions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Motion made to approve by Councilor McCarty, seconded by Councilor Willis. Would you call the roll, please?
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes.
Troy Patton.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thanks, Marla. Our next item on the docket this evening is the approval of the claims docket for December 27, 2023. Councilors, do you have any questions or comments regarding the claims this evening?
I do. On page 13, there's the purchase of 2 vehicles, Hare Chevrolet and Tom O'Brien. I've asked what those are for, and I have not received any response.
Yeah, so Jeremy is, we tried to reach out to him. He's on vacation and did not respond. I would concede that those 2 purchases should not be part of a GO bond. I'm not sure why that was done that way. From talking to Jonathan Nail, his memory serves him correctly. He said it was simply get it done quickly without an appropriation, so they put it to the GO bond. So my recommendation would be that those are not paid through the GO bond. They should not have been paid through the GO bond. It should go through a normal appropriation. So because we're at the last meeting, I would say we don't pay those 2 and bring it back in January for payment.
Okay, that's fine.
This is Manny. If they're not supposed to be paid out of the GO bond, they absolutely should not be.
They should not be.
Is that Manny?
Now, I don't know whether that's the case or not. The GO bond is pretty broad about what it can encompass, but if we made a determination that it's not under those parameters, then I agree, it should not be, that should be reserved.
Yeah. Thanks, Manny.
Yes, sir.
I want to point out something just real briefly on this, because from my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, but these are for vehicles for public officials incoming or other people. And I'm going to tell you that it's deeply disappointing that people would try to put vehicle purchases through that have no benefit to the taxpayer for their own benefits. And that's pointed at whether it be the incoming mayor or whomever is doing it. But frankly, when you run on the fact that you've been a successful 2-3 business owners deep and that you need a vehicle for government use to drive through the spreading metropolis of Westfield, which is 5 miles deep from one side to the other, I get it that community development would need it if they're going out and for inspections, but the communications director, the mayor, the chief of staff, that we're just buying all these vehicles I wish the police chief was here because we have about 12 vehicles that are actually in great shape that we're about ready to get rid of. And we valued them at like $8,000 because we're dumping them. They're low-mile vehicles. Those vehicles could actually be stripped, a couple $1,000s put into, and have a fleet of vehicles available for city staff members. It's disappointing that the first thing that we want to do is go out and buy vehicles as compensation package for people for the city. You, the taxpayers, are being fleeced by government. And this is a perfect example of that. And for that, I'm disappointed. And it'll be on the next city council whether they decide whether they want to continue those policies. Frankly, I get it with the community development director, but the rest of it, I'm frankly embarrassed that they're even trying to put them through.
What are those vehicles for?
I could not get a hold of Jeremy. I'm pretty sure that one of them is for our new incoming chief of staff, based on the type of vehicle. But again, we're purchasing vehicles routinely, and I'm not sure exactly what they were used for. I will say this much in terms of our vehicle policy. I would agree with you, Councilor Patton, that our vehicle policy is unacceptable. We have more vehicles than we need. We have people driving vehicles who shouldn't be. We have people who are receiving benefits of vehicles and not paying taxes on it. We have all kinds of problems.
It's actually tax fraud, yeah.
And we are looking at that, and I've tasked Danielle and we're already starting a new vehicle policy, and we will get something put forth in the first quarter of next year. I'm not mayor yet, and it's not my top priority, but we are gonna look at it because I agree with you. There are people who don't drive a lot of miles on behalf of the city, and they have a vehicle. So we're gonna fix that. But I would disagree with you in the fact that if you're spending a lot of your own personal miles doing business on behalf of the city, certain positions rate a vehicle. They just do. And you can disagree, and that's okay. We can disagree on this. But traditionally, and you look at not only in Westfield, but other cities, there are certain positions that are earmarked for vehicles because I'm not going to ask a city employee to put up miles on their own car on behalf of the city. Now, some should have a fleet that they have available to come to the city and grab. Some should have a take-home car. We're looking at that, and we're going to tighten that down. We're just not there yet. Again, I'm not the mayor yet. So that's where we're at, and that's where I'll leave it.
So I presume as the mayor, incoming mayor, you're not going to take a vehicle.
No, I'm going to take a vehicle. You better believe it.
You live a half mile from the city, and you're going to to go out,
Well, Troy,
you own a car.
if you think that as mayor that all I'm going to do is drive to work and sit in my office all day, then you don't understand what I ran on, and you certainly don't understand how I'm going to function as a mayor.
You're disappointing.
Well, I know this is going to disappoint you, but I really don't care, Troy.
Councilor Willis, if I may, just to be clear, so you don't know what these particular vehicles are for?
I can only assume. I was not able to get a hold of Jeremy.
Okay. So is it safe to assume that these are just going to come back in a different funding format?
It's going to come back under a normal appropriations. Okay. There was money in the budget. I don't know why it went through the GO bond, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I have no idea.
This is confusing. The fact that we don't even know what they're for is confusing. That's one issue. It doesn't do me any good, but I'll go ahead and mention, I didn't know that you were going to get yourself on taxpayer dollars, a company vehicle as well.
I didn't know I had to check in with you.
You don't. That's
Okay.
That's certainly a valid point. Certainly a valid point. I would encourage you to take a long, hard look between the mayor and the chief of staff position. During the term, that's well north of $1 million that income for those positions from taxpayer dollars. I just find it hard to imagine that we need to add another $100,000 on top of that for vehicles. But that's my opinion, and to your point, my opinion doesn't matter. So you do with it what you will. I would just like to publicly and vocally point out my disappointment in that as well. That seems backwards to what most of us ran on, but you do with it what you will.
Duly noted.
I'll make a motion to approve the docket except for those two vehicles.
I'll second it.
A motion made by Troy Patton, council seconded by Scott Willis. with the changes as indicated. Marla, would you call the roll?
Troy Patton,
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Mike Johns.
Yes?
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Cindy Spoljarek,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0, and I did note that Cindy's arrival.
Thank you. All right. The next item on our agenda is a presentation of the non-DLGF funds. For whatever reason, we don't have anyone from the city here. Do we have someone online? John Rogers? Okay, so historically, just to remind everybody, we approved the budget itself, portion of the budget on October 23rd. And at that time, we asked that the administration provide us with the budget for the entire city, including the non-DLGF funds. The city, John Rogers asked for additional time to get that together. We agreed that he would have it for presentation no later than December 11th, and would actually have it to the councilors by the end of November to give us a chance to review those funds. At our last meeting on December 11th, we were told by the deputy mayor that they were unable, the administration was unable to put those numbers together, and had gone to the clerk a couple days before and asked for the clerk's office to put the budget numbers together for us. The clerk's office finished that, got that to us just before the holidays. So this evening I had expected that someone from the administration would be here to review those numbers with us, but apparently they are not. Again, it's quite disappointing. I think we've had 4 years of the budget not being presented in a timely fashion. So it's hopefully we'll have a new administration and we'll be presenting the budget timely to the new council. But that said, Marla, could you at least review those numbers with us?
So it was an enormous undertaking, I'll say that, but we were able to finally utilize NAV with our software upgrade to Business Central to print a lot of it. But we were able to go through every single line to make sure that all the DLGF funds matched exactly what was reported to DLGF to the penny. Then in revenues, we actually created 2 columns because FSG and Greg Garitas, who worked for the mayor, was the one who directed what we would put on Forms 2 and 4B. So that was the second column on your page. I think it was column D. Column C was actually the budgeted revenues that were submitted by various department heads and those revenue numbers that fell to each department of the city. So they came to a bit more because it included DLGF revenues that are reported as well as non-DLGF revenues. So that was your $99 million number. And then the non-DLGF expenditures, because we don't report them, again, it had just kind of fell to department heads, but that was just one column. So as I sent you in the email, which I got no feedback from anybody else on, neither Jeremy nor John or anyone else, projected revenues are $99,125,966. DLGF expenditures came to almost $79 million. Non-DLGF expenditures almost $32 million. So it was a budget deficit. Not that we don't have the money, we absolutely do, but it was a negative $11,599,347.34. And I did not bring the enormous spreadsheet. If anyone would like it, I'd be happy to send out a copy, provided that they are not my numbers. They are the numbers that needed to be dealt with, so I simply added them up, verified them. Those numbers are also subject to change once we receive our
Tax levy?
notice of excess tax levy. And, you know, revenues can go up, projections can go up also for revenue and expenditures. And then any additional appropriations that would come, as well as anything else that we're going to spend this year, would still need to be added up and rolled into that also. So we are being very careful, but they're not our numbers. Numbers are numbers. We hope we have been as accurate as possible, but certainly matching them to the penny is the best job that we can do.
If I remember right, the email chain was left at asking administration about the additional levy and timing and information, and we just didn't get that answer right. I mean, I didn't respond because there was a question hanging out there to Jeremy, I believe.
So part of that
So I was waiting for that answer before I had any comments.
Yeah, the GEO bond closed and was wired yesterday and today. I think we received the proceeds yesterday, but we had to pay the expenses today. So that's in part what the delay is in receiving that notice of excess tax levy. So it should come very quickly because it also has to be in by the end of the year.
So once we know the access to max levy, the whole equation could change on the revenue side.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilors, any other questions? Comments? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Marla. Appreciate that this evening. I know we threw that at you at the last minute. Asked you to speak on the topic. Okay, moving on, then we'll get right into old business. Our first item of old business is Resolution 23-115, City of Westfield encumbering certain funds for services and authorizing the clerk treasurer to encumber such funds. This item had a council introduction on December 11th, 2023, is up for adoption consideration this evening. Marla, I understand we have actually a revised list of encumbrances.
Right, so
presented.
there were some critical errors in the first draft that was introduced 2 weeks ago. And I spoke with John Nail today. 2 lines had been removed simply because the money wasn't there to encumber in the funds. He said he was okay with that verbally over the phone, and I apologize because it was sort of in the 11th hour, but trying to match to make sure that what they were wanting to encumber was actually left was the difficulty. So these numbers are the asks from the various departments for encumbrances that would go into their budgets for next year.
Okay. Marla, when we look at this list, do we know that these are actually encumbered dollars, that they haven't already been included in the current budget that we approved in October?
Some yes and some no. I can't say because the justifications lines and the budgets weren't used. So from memory, if you look at the first one, that is a public works project for 151st Street Trail Connection, I believe that they did budget $700,000 for 2024, but I don't know if it's the same $700,000 or if it's an ask to make that budget $1.4 million. I know Tomlinson Road was not budgeted. Same with, well, it was budgeted this year, but not for next. The same with the State Road 32 and Jersey Street construction. It was budgeted this year, but I think to the delays in the letting, that's why the funds remain. But we spent down a little bit. I think the ask was really $10,300,000, but I did tell John that $10,139,16 is what's actually left there, so we could encumber that. Police, I did speak with Scott Jordan today. $666,480 is still for schematic design. That had been budgeted. They would like to encumber that. That would be appropriate to do. And then the ECD office build out, they had budgeted money and didn't spend any of it this year, so that too would be an encumbrance. It's some of the public works projects I can't really answer. So unless somebody else knows, I can't read the justifications because they're not there.
So the ones we don't have the detail on are the Freedom Trails, Simon Moon, and 151st Street Trail Connection, and possibly Tomlinson Road?
No, Tomlinson was budgeted in 2023, but not for 2024, so it's a valid encumbrance. It's the parks projects, I can't tell.
The other three?
Yeah, they are non-DLGF budgeted items, and from memory, I think it's 3.9 million is what was budgeted out of 204. So I can't tell you what to do because I don't know the answer.
I thought Kevin had said that he didn't need that 30,000 anymore from ECD. Didn't he mention that at the last meeting?
It was actually 60,000 from IT, and that is not there.
That's what I'm confusing it with. Okay. Thank you, sorry.
It just always concerns me. How do you forget to put $14 million in your budget? How does it happen?
We don't know if it was necessarily forgotten or more they knew it was budgeted for this year and they want to carry that forward regardless. I mean, it's difficult because those are reverting funds, meaning if they didn't use it, the money would just go back into the general fund and then they could rebudget it anyway in 2024. So I can't answer that because it wasn't my job to do, more than to honor the encumbrances that were asked for, which is what is in front of you.
So if there's no one here, is Jonathan Nail online? Is anyone online from the city? So if there's no one here from the city, we take no action, this just reverts back to the general fund and they can choose to use it next year.
Well, the next city council can probably just budget it out.
It would, because we've already approved the budget, going into 2024, it would need to come in the form of an additional appropriation because we've already submitted it. If it's an encumbrance, we don't have to do that.
Scott, do you
You'd
have
be
any
passing it
idea?
here.
I'm sorry, I don't have any visibility on this either, so I would say at this point, if we don't know what it is, let's not approve it, and I'll circle back January 2nd and figure out what this is and get it rebudgeted in.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay.
That's good.
Can we just like make a motion perhaps to
Yeah.
deny it?
Can I have a motion then?
Motion to deny Resolution 23-115, City of Westfield encumbering certain funds for services.
I second that.
Okay, motion made for denial by Counselor Gilbert, seconded by Counselor Fry. Marla, would you call the roll, please?
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Cindy Spolcharik,
Yes.
Jake Gilbert,
Yes?
Troy Patton.
Yes.
Scott Willis,
Yes.
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Mike Johns.
Yes.
Motion carries. The encumbrances have been denied. 7-0.
Thank you, Marla. Next item now is moving into the area of new business. First item, Resolution 23-118, approving formal request to the Indiana State Board of Accounts to conduct a cash basis audits for the calendar years 2021, 2022, and 2023. This item is up for adoption consideration this evening. Marla, I'll let you present this too.
Sure. So basically, this resolution is predicated on the fact that through Board of Public Works, Mayor-elect Willis requested that we begin doing ACFRs rather than cash basis. AFRs is what we're required to do by the state. But we haven't been audited for budget years 21, 22, and of course 23. So there was some concern that with our recent S&P rating, that the rating would be either pulled or our lack of timely audits by a state board would impact that rating. And of course, no one wants to see it go backward. So what we have agreed to is to undertake doing an ACFR after 2024. But we are scheduled with State Board to have them come in the first quarter of this year and audit us on a cash basis audit for 21, 22, 23. That'll bring us up to date so that we can then plan for the ACFR ahead of time. This just kind of formalizes the ask. We wanted to have it on record that our willingness to undertake going to an ACFR is something that I wanted to do anyway, although I was going to wait a little bit longer to do it. it's totally fine with me. There was supposed to be, but I perhaps didn't mean to, but might have derailed a presentation by KSM, which would be Katz, Sapper, and Miller out of Carmel, just because it hadn't been discussed. But Mayor Willis and I, and also Chief of Staff Tolan and I, ended up having subsequent conversations. They were not only apologetic just about kind of leaving me out of the loop, but they were good conversations to say, yes, we're all on the same page. But I have already kind of contracted with Crone, at least in a services agreement, about what they're going to do for the clerk treasurer's office. And so while I still have some questions about the role that administration would like Katz, Sapper, and Miller to play, Crone is at a place where they're willing to prepare whatever it is that we're going to need. They'll help us formulate that, and whether they do the ACFR or they give the ACFR over to KSM, that is the road that we will be hoeing.
Did we bid this out? I mean, did we do our agreed-upon procedures and bid this out to different CPA firms?
For what?
I mean, well, we're talking about
For an
hiring
ACFR,
Katz.
well, no, because it wasn't my position to bid it out because it wasn't on my plan.
Well, okay.
So I don't know if it was
I mean,
otherwise.
typically, like when you have agreed-upon procedures, being a CPA, I mean, like when I worked at E&Y or whatever, I mean, these were always bid out. And
Yeah, there's no requirement to bid this out.
I didn't say there's not a requirement to bid it out. Is what I'm saying is they're generally bid out to a few different firms because although Katz is a great firm, I mean, maybe their price is twice as high as somebody else. So for instance, you know, Larson Allen here in town has a governmental unit, and you know, they're generally speaking probably a half to 2/3 the price of Katz, and they have multiple offices. They're very good as well, price similar size. So I'm just wondering if I mean, anytime you have something like this, audits, just like public companies, every 5 years they're required to bid. Well, they don't have to, but they're usually required to bid it out. So all I'm asking is, are we bidding this out?
And the answer is no, we will not be bidding it out.
Okay. If we're not going to bid things out, I'm always a no, because good governance means we're out there seeking the best possible people to do the job at not necessarily at the best possible price, but at a fair price given what the agreed upon
Well,
procedures
understand, nobody's been paid or hired to do anything yet. We're aligning the right experts around us to get this done. We're on a very, very short timeline to make this thing happen. And my goal as incoming mayor is to get the city of Westfield a AAA bond rating. One, it solidifies that we're doing things the right way financially, but two, when you look at interest rates and where they're heading, and I think most people would agree interest rates aren't coming down anytime soon, a AAA bond rating would result in huge savings to our taxpayers and interest rates that the city oftentimes has to take loans on. So we're committed to a AAA bond rating. I'm bringing in a new financial team. It's not the same one that our current city's using. And, you know, we've had many conversations of who the best players are to get this done because it's, again, a very, very short wick. We've got about 6 months to get this, or we could lose our bond rating, which would set us back years. So we're going to do the right thing for the city, and we feel like KSM is the right organization to get us there. But at this point, we've not signed any contracts or paid anybody any money at this point. We're just trying to get approval from the council to get these audits done by the state. So they're not attached.
Yeah, and to be clear, unless I've misunderstood, because we're going to turn in our AFR for 2023, there wouldn't be a need to do an ACFR in 2024 for 2023 because we do our AFR. That's correct. So we're talking about an ACFR for 2024. So this resolution is really only about just saying, hey, SPOA, yeah, come on in and audit us and get us up to date.
It's not us choosing Crohn's or KSM or anything like that anyway.
It actually says,
Has nothing to do with it.
it actually says the city intends to engage independent CPA firm examinations. I want to make sure that there's an RFP attached to it, or at least that we go out to 3 firms. And just to make a couple further comments, interest rates have come down by about 1.25%. They probably will keep declining because actually owner equivalent rents and mortgage equivalent payments are actually declining. I mean, I write quarterly on the economy, and
So Troy, are you saying that getting a AAA bond rating is not in the best interest of the taxpayer? Is that what you're saying?
I think you need to listen for a second and listen to what I'm saying. Interest rates are declining. Whether we like it or not, I think the Federal Reserve is actually doing a fairly good job, albeit surprisingly, that they're orchestrating a soft landing. Interest rates are coming down. In fact, a AA rating interest rate today is lower than a AAA rating was 30 days ago. And that may continue in the next 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days as GDP is only expected to expand by about 0.5%, which means that more bets are actually that the Federal Reserve reduces rates in 2024 versus what has happened in 2023. So is what I would tell you is that a AAA bond rating is great, and I hope we get that. I think that's a great idea. But you can't tell me that you're going to be financially acute in one area and then say we're not going to bid out agreed upon procedures and be financially irresponsible in another area, because those two things don't seem to mesh with me. I applaud you for going after the AAA rating. I think that's great, and you should do that. But I also think you should bid it out to worthy CPA firms to find who's going to do the best job and who can do the best job.
And I will take that under advice. These two are not attached. This is just simply going on the record that we want, I think we would all agree that getting an audit done is the right thing to do. I think we all agree that a AAA bond rating is the right thing to do, and this is step one. And I will take it under advisement, your advice around contracts, but this is not what this is about.
Can we meet this timeline?
I'm sorry, Jay.
Can we meet the timeline on June? Like, that's the timeline I'm seeing here for both ends.
It's really tight, but we think we can get it done. We're only bringing it to this council. Normally, we would wait, because this is something that's going to play out in the next administration. But the timelines are tight enough that we felt we needed to get it out now.
So I'm not exactly sure what was passed through Public Works in terms of with KSM. This resolution is something that Buzz Crone contacted SBOA, and they said they can absolutely meet our timeline. We do have to get our AFR done. I believe they said by the end of February, though it's typically not due until the end of March. And then they would come in March, April, and May to complete their audit of the city for those 3 years. So I'm comfortable with the resolution. As for the rest of it, I don't have a vote. I will let you guys discuss that.
This is Manny, so just not to belabor it, but Marla's right. This resolution sets up the SBOA to do it. It has some language about selecting a separate CPA firm. And if you remember, we ran into this exercise a couple of years ago. There are certain qualifications those firms have to meet. Fishers uses BKD and has used BKD. Now Forvis for a while. So, I'm sure Mayor-elect Willis is going to, review those and meet those qualifications as he must and as Marla must. Otherwise, those audits submitted to the State Board of Accounts won't count. So, whether it's the State Board of Accounts taking it on, hopefully with the additional resources they got, they can do that, or whether it's selecting a firm that has those kind of specific statutory qualifications. I think this resolution addresses that point.
Yeah. Hey, Manny, just a real quick question. Would you agree or disagree that there's probably about 25 firms here in the city of Indianapolis that are experts in GASB, governmental accounting standards? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the number. There are a fair amount that would probably meet the qualifications necessary for that are in the statute. Certainly, more than one. But as Mayor-elect said, he's not going to take it under advisement. He's not foreclosing that for that purpose. And if SBOA can do it, it just depends on how much they're going to charge us, right? So it just depends on which one's going to charge us more or less, and timeliness is paramount, so it might be worth paying a little more to meet that timeline if we need it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So again, if you want to change the language to say that we would at least talk to 3 firms and measure those, I would vote yes for this. In light of that, I do think taxpayers want us to be more accountable for the money that we spend, and we should do things correctly. And if we don't change it, I'll vote no, but I mean, you know, if you want to pass it, pass it. I mean,
So Counselor Patton, if I'm understanding then, the final whereas, as presented in front of us here, that needs to be changed to language that would include, or that would reference multiple bids, 3 bids.
I think 3 bids are appropriate. I mean, if we're going to spend this kind of money, we should have 3 bids. I mean, you know,
That seems fair, that seems reasonable.
you could have 3 bids within 7 days. I mean, firms do governmental audits and agreed upon procedures all the time. This is not new, folks. This is not new.
Are we trying to say then that whereas the city intends to engage through a bidding process an independent CPA firm?
I'd say at least 3 independent CPA firm bids.
How would you phrase it?
I would just say the city intends to engage an independent CPA firm through the request of 3 independent bids in order to meet its future audit requirements and help maintain its credit rating.
That seems prudent.
Council comments?
I manage 6 publicly traded entities, and if I wanted to have bids on audits, I could have them within 7 days. 6 publicly traded entities. I could have them literally within 7 days. This is no different.
Was that your motion?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the change of that language where the city intends to engage an independent CPA firm with 3 independent bids in order to meet its future audit requirements and help maintain its credit rating.
Marla, do you have that down?
I got half of it. I'll make sure I listen again, get it right.
All right. Can I have, can I
That's
have a
the
motion?
motion.
Restate the motion, Troy?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 23-118 with the additional language on the last whereas.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made by Counselor Patton, seconded by Counselor Fry to approve Resolution 23-118 with the aforementioned changes. Marla, would you call the roll, please?
Victor McCarty,
Yes.
Mike Johns,
Yes.
Scott Fry,
Yes.
Cindy Spaljerik.
Yes.
Jake Gilbert.
Yes.
Troy Patton.
Yes.
Scott Willis.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, councilors. Moving on then, our last item of new business is ordinance 24-01. What's our first 24? 24-01. All right. Cool. Annexing certain real estate to the city of Westfield, Hamilton County, Indiana, 1510 East 216th Street, the Shear property. This item has a council introduction this evening. We'll have a public hearing on January 8th, 2024, and will be up for adoption consideration on January 29th, 2024. Do we have, who's going to present the ordinance?
I'll take this. I don't think that the petitioner is actually here today. This is, for those of us that were involved, gosh, it's going back probably 3 years ago, I'm guessing, Mike, Councilor Johns, but they had approached the city about an annexation at this parcel. It was shelved. I don't think this council was interested in going down that path. They're bringing it back. So it's on the docket today, but this will be something for the next council to weigh in on.
I've got a couple questions, Councilor Willis.
Yep.
The first time this ordinance was presented, at the same time it was presented with a developer who was going to develop the property. Is that developer part of this new?
It's the same developer.
The same
Same
developer?
project, yep.
Okay. All right.
Same developer. It's a, they're looking at a, I don't want to call it a North Point type development, but similar in nature. It'll be a commercial project with probably, I'm guessing, 6 to 8 commercial buildings on it. So again, something similar to North Point.
I know when it was first presented, and you're usually in favor of annexation. And I think you strike when the iron's hot, you get what you get when you can get it. All right. But I had two concerns, as I recall. The first concern was with that specific developer was I think we had talked about trying to use that corner for some type of a corporate headquarters, since it's so highly visible. And we had also stressed the fact that we didn't want to just have a bunch of warehouses there as you enter the city of Westfield. And certainly the concern was with warehouses or industrial type being right next to probably our most valuable and high-priced subdivision of Chatham Hills. And I don't think the residents in Chatham Hills would welcome certain elements there. So I think that would be an issue. The second concern that I have is the fact that we're annexing property that I believe Sheridan is considering their property right now.
Right now, it is in Adams Township. The town of Sheridan and the township of Adams is looking at consolidating their government. It takes a little bit of time to do that. Over time, I'm sure that's going to happen, and then it would go to the voters to vote on. But as of right now, we still have the ability to annex that property.
It's, again, more concerns, it's just the idea that I think that the new council should look at this very closely. Make sure that we're not biting off more than we can chew from a standpoint of how litigious can Sheridan be, how much can it cost us, what are we really looking at in out of pocket. Little concerned because I think Sheridan may have the same attorneys, the Taft attorneys that we are currently using now. And I know we're going to have our own city attorney, but they're
Yes,
could be
I
some-
didn't comment on this, Mike, and I haven't seen it before today, so I'm not going to comment on it. You're right. One of my
And Manny,
partners
just so you know,
Sheridan.
I did talk to Jules last week about this, and we're working through that. So they're aware of it. They're aware where there could be a potential conflict. So that's something that will have to play itself out.
Yeah, sure.
Again, my biggest concern is just that it's going before a new council that isn't even used to being a council yet, and a new mayor, and it's a pretty deep subject, really, I think.
And how does the planning and zoning work on this then? You know, we have a joinder agreement, the Westfield, Washington Township. So when we're getting outside of that, exactly what is covered in that? You
That
know,
was one of the
Are
issues
we
before.
approving something that then we have no planning and zoning authority over? I won't be here, but I'm just hoping maybe our next council will be thinking about those things when they look into this.
Certainly something we need to work through.
Yeah.
I would add, just on the point, ironically, you know, a lot of the formation of Westfield as a city was in response to, you know, the boogeyman down south was going to annex our land, and we stood up and became a city in response. I've heard that story from Mayor Cook a couple times about the history and foundation of Westfield. And then when I look at a map and see like a little cutout that is actually Carmel, doesn't sit well to me today, and I wasn't even here. So I don't know why I'm like that, but I am. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a big challenge. I see Noah in the audience, and I'm not saying what I think is right or wrong here to the Mayor-elect Willis, but I think this is more than just this development, whether this is a great development or not.
And this property is unique because
It's going down a direction.
it straddles two townships. So it's a unique piece that the developer felt like being a part of Westfield. When you think about Sheridan, at least at this point, they don't even have a professional fire department. It's a volunteer at this point. So there's a lot of things around activating this corridor that only Westfield can do right now. But certainly the big picture of, you know, annexation and how much does Westfield go into Adams Township, I certainly don't see us going any further than this project. I can't predict the future. I don't know what else is out there, but this one made sense simply because it was one owner that owned in both townships, so. But I appreciate everything you guys are saying. It's something that definitely the APC and the council is going to have to vet over the next several months.
Counselor, any other comments? Well, hearing no other comments, all I can say to future-elect mayor and the new council is good luck, and it's gonna be a hummer.
It's going to be a busy 2024, I got to think.
Yes, it is, okay. That ends our formal business for tonight. Do we have any guests who would like to address the council? See one hand? You can come up, please. Let us know who you are and.
Carla Fry. I'm about to take my address. 2045 West 166. I would just like to thank Troy, Jake, Mike, Scott, and Cindy for your service for the past 4 years. You guys have showed so much integrity, and it has not gone unnoticed. Your willingness to serve and just to push for transparency has been noticed by your community and by your spouses, who had to put up with a lot of the bashing, unwarranted bashing by some. So we do appreciate everything you've done. And Cindy, your launch back in the day with Cameron, I can't even thank you enough. You had my vote back then, big fan of you for many, many years. So thank you so much for your service all these years. So love you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks,
So much. Do we have any other individuals like to? Okay, hearing none, clerk treasurer comments.
Well, I'll be brief and say, I'd like to kind of echo what Carla said, but I've only had 2 years with you. And the mentor, she was going to try and be here tonight, but I know how appreciative Cindy is of all of you. 30 years of service, she has seen a lot of things change, from becoming a town to a city, and with one mayor and now a new mayor, I think we're on the precipice of some very exciting times. And she would probably say not all her time has been great, but she really has thought that you guys were great. I think she would say that. I hope I've put her sentiments out correctly. So, and again, thank you. It has been a pleasure, and you will be missed, those of you who will be missing. But we'll have Mr. McCarty and Mayor Willis here, and hope that they guide the ship into some calmer waters. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Marla. City councilor comments.
I'll say something.
Please.
I said stuff last meeting, so I won't take too much time, but I've been around almost 20 years now, so this is like a big deal to have this be the last night. This council has been incredible, and they've gotten such a bad rap, and it pains me. Knowing the hard work you guys put in and all that we've tried to do, the respect that you've all given me is something I didn't always have, and I appreciate it. And also to Mike, you've done a lot of extra work that a lot of people don't realize that the council president, especially you in these times, have had. We started out in a pandemic, and you guys had to start out in such difficult times for the city, and yet here we are, and we've come a long, long way. So I just really want to thank you, and I want to thank the staff. Staff has always treated me exceptionally well over the years, and they are incredibly professional and special. So, and the citizens, thank you so much for letting me serve you for all these years.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, guys.
Just one quick comment. Look, with all the back and forth, I wish Scott Willis the best, and I wish the city the best, because frankly, it's the taxpayer dollars And I hope every decision from the city council to the mayor, it's reflected that their first thought is, how does this benefit the taxpayer? Because that's what we're missing. We're missing that in Washington. We've missed it here at the local level for many years. And I do think this city council actually, for the first time, demanded accountability and transparency of financials, whether that was hard on some or not hard on some. It's much needed. We did try to run it more like a business, to the chagrin of many, but we did. I would like to say, just with the incoming city council, that please review everything, whether it be Grand Park. Obviously, there was a big announcement. There's still there's some items there. I think I've emailed Scott Willis a few times. It sounds like there might be some things that need to be looked at very diligently that aren't necessarily what was discussed, but that's something that I asked them to please look at and then be transparent with the community, because it is our dollars actually that built everything. And it's not, this is not the city's money, this is actually your money. We see that from time to time. And I would thank everything. And I know Scott Willis and I trade barbs, often. But at the same time, I do hope for the best for the city, because I plan to live here for a long time. And thank you, everybody, for being on city council. And thank you for those people that actually served on the different committees and boards and things like that, because without those people also, they brought the transparency as well to those committees and started asking questions. And again, people didn't like the questions asked, but sometimes questions are good to ask. It's okay to ask them, and it's okay to ask them in public so that people can see what their business is. With that being said, thank you, everyone.
I didn't really plan on saying anything, but I would like to just have a couple quick comments here. To my wife and my family, thank you for putting up with the last 4 years. I know it's not been easy on a number of levels. It's been great serving with you guys up here, you folks up here on council. I think it would be wrong not to acknowledge someone who was a great mentor and a great leader who we started to serve with, and unfortunately is not here with us today. But he will be with us, I'm sure, forever in our hearts and our memories. No one could deliver a message quite like Joe Edwards, and it was an absolute honor serving with him. And you never knew, or you never had to worry. You always knew exactly where you stood or where he stood on a position, because he just had a very unique way of explaining that to you. And I feel very privileged and very honored to serve with you all, and certainly with Joe as well.
I used to come and sit out there, so I thank all the people who come all the time and just watch. And I love the city so much, and I would sit out there, and then my first reaction was like, why is that lady always asking so many questions? That contrarian Cindy, who is this lady? Mm-hmm. And I came to know Cindy as the smartest, kindest, most capable person. And a dear friend. And then I used to think of kind of the same about Marla. Like, let it go. And then I got to know her, and it's just she's so detailed and principled and just so discerning and capable. And so two things, while we're on this road, we need more women leadership in Westfield. But number two, my initial impulse, just because I love the city, was that maybe these are rabble-rousers in some way. But look, the reality is this, everyone. When we don't agree, it's not because we hate the city. It's because we love the city. I have disagreed probably with everyone up here. I've yelled at Mike, unfortunately, publicly and privately. I've absolutely yelled at Troy. I've yelled at Scott. We ran against each other. I wish nothing but the best for all the new people. Mayor-elect Willis, I'm happy to say those terms, not Scott, Mayor-elect Willis, and your family. And I wish you nothing but the best. You're going to be a great mayor. And the new council, thank you so much. So our time has passed. Thank you to everyone who supported us. Thank you for our families. Gosh, I miss my friend Joe. But, you know, I just believe in doing hard things and finishing well. So I'm happy to see all of us up here for the last time. And I do think we've tried to finish well. And I believe in doing the hard things and asking the hard questions, doing the work, regardless. Thank you for the council for supporting me. Special thanks to Mike. I did not initially approve of Mike being on the APC and as the president, and he talked me into it because he said, Jake, I'm retired. I promise you I will put in the work. And he has. And so you have to kind of earn it with me, and you've earned it, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the discerning nature of Scott Fry. Usually if Scott takes a position, I know it's thought of. And so if I'm against Scott, I question my own thought. Kind of the same with Cindy, to be honest. I'm like, typically, they're right. I appreciate the passion of Troy. A lot of times, Troy and I are more similar. I just bite my tongue a little better. But I so enjoy sitting next to him sometimes. It does keep these boring meetings entertaining. And again, I appreciate the dedication, Scott and Victor, for being up there too. And so I wish you nothing but the best as our mayor and for our new council. I'd like to thank Cindy Gossert and Mayor Cook, even though they're not here. I'd like to thank Ann, everyone from the city, and Marla, best of luck to you, my friend. You're going to be great. So God bless. Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, I'm just going to make just a quick comment. I ran for office 4 years ago, telling everybody, and really I ran for office because I hadn't served in the military. And I felt like I owed some time to my country, to my city. And so I ran for 4 years. I said, I'm going to give you 4 years. And I didn't really expect it would be 4 years at war sometimes. I thought it was going to be 4 years in a kind of a cushy, job here. But all I can say is it turned out to be the best 4 years of my life. And really, I am just blessed to have the group of counselors, fellow counselors that I've had, and all 7, 8 of them, right? Love you all, and thank you. Appreciate everything. With that, we're going to bring this meeting to a close.